How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan, he's Abby, we are the Expansion Bros, and we're back to talk about some playoff hockey, something I don't have very much experience with, but Abby, you guys do, and you are in the thick of it right now against the Nashville Predators, probably the NHL's hottest team. I know Edmonton went on that run mid-season, but to end the season, Nashville was the hottest team. Not a great draw considering, when things are rolling, you get hot and roll into the playoffs. I'm not surprised exactly that we're going into a game 6. I did say Vancouver in 5. I felt good about my prediction there. Unfortunately, in game 5, you guys just couldn't get it done. But how are you feeling? Game 6 on the horizon, game 7 a possibility. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, bit uneasy about it, right? I think luck has not been on the Canucks side for a couple different cases. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit for game 5. But just in general, my boy Demko goes down, and then DeSmith, those Predators are surprisingly dirty, slashing at a goalie's blocker. That's something I thought was common sense. You don't do that. That's like off the rules. It's like, you're in a street fight, you don't kick the people in the balls. But apparently, I guess it's okay to run the goalie behind the net and slash him on his blocker. I don't know. I think we should be like running into Saros. Maybe I don't know. It just seems like a better idea. But no,
I wouldn't fight fire with
somewhat
fire
jokes aside,
that way.
that's true. We were already down 2 goalies, so we don't want Artie getting run next. But I don't know. Fuck the Predators. Point being, the Canucks are down to their third string goalie, but we're very lucky to have a excellent goaltending coach in Ian Clark, and B, the actual goaltending depth within the organization to where Seelovs came in, and yes, of course, you're sad it's not Demko, and then DeSmith plays well, and you're sad it's not DeSmith, but you're not feeling total despair. Seelovs came in, and very few people actually switched their predictions if they were predicting Vancouver. Maybe they went from Vancouver in 6 to Vancouver in 7, for example. But I think everyone's still expecting Vancouver to win one of the next 2 games.
Yeah, I certainly
After that, how it
see.
goes, we'll see.
I certainly see tomorrow's game as a must-win for you guys. I know you guys are the home team in the series. I know you guys are the upper seed and that game 7's at home. But you give a team like this life, and you never want to go into it where Seelov strains his groin in game 3, and you're onto your 4th goaltender, and he's an absolute sieve, and an unlucky bounce, right? Because you guys haven't really gotten too lucky in this postseason. But I really think that game 6 is do or die. Like, I think you guys would win a game 7. I don't want to get to that point, and part of this could be you had a chance to close them out in game 5. You guys played a great first period, and you just couldn't beat Saros. And I think it's partly a young team. I know you guys aren't like super young age-wise, but as far as playoff games played, I think Nashville might have more playoff games played on the roster
For sure.
than the
Forsberg,
Canucks.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nyquist, yeah.
So some of those guys have made some deep playoff runs, and they know what it's like. So I still think Vancouver's gonna advance in the series. I wouldn't take going to 6 or 7 against Nashville as any kind of sign that the regular season was a fluke or anything to be worried about, because I feel like once you guys lock in and win the round, I feel like I don't want to say the pressure's off, because I know once you're in the dance, you want to lift the cup. Like, it's real for all 16 of these teams. But the stress of the first round, you're like, okay, we won a round. We know what to do. We know what to expect every game now. There's no shifts off. I'm not saying you guys are taking them off, but it's one of those, okay, we've got Edmonton next. We can go play a normal game, not like a sticks gripped too tight kind of game. So I feel like it could be youth and just get through game 6, win game 6. I don't want to talk about a game 7.
Yeah, me neither. Edmonton or not Edmonton. Nashville's also a bit more of a grindy team. So the longer the series goes on, the more it's kind of a style that does not have a lot of shelf life, because they're not expecting to make it to round 3. They might maybe get through round 1, but if they get to round 2 against the Oilers, they're done. Because now they've gotten into a grit grind battle with the Canucks, who are starting to give it back with players like Zadorov. So this is again a short-term strategy that's good for wearing down players in the Canucks. Like we've seen Quinn Hughes take a lot of heavy hits. We've seen the goalies go down. Um, we've seen the effect of it, but this is a short-term strategy. So if the Canucks can finish them off in 6, I'm not too worried. They'll have a little bit of time to heal until they face Edmonton. But the longer the series goes, obviously, the more chance of sustaining injury, so that even if you do win against a grit and grind team like Nashville, you're more likely to carry those injuries into the next round as well with the less resting time.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think and I think what you mentioned there, I think Vancouver versus Edmonton is just a more fun series to talk about too. I mean, not for the fact that
mhm.
we're both Canucks fans, me right now, but you all time, but just the fact that like I don't want to see Nashville versus Edmonton. The only time I'd want to see Nashville is if they got past Edmonton and you're like, okay, maybe no team should ever go see you two in Las Vegas because apparently that's the key to winning in the playoffs or just in general. Um but I think your point about them playing a bit more of a grit grindy game, it's certainly going to wear both teams down. Obviously, when you're the one doing the hitting, it wears you down less. I don't know psychologically or physically. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how that works, but it just seems to work that way. But also the UC Saros magic. Like, how long does that last? How long can that last? I mean, he's currently right now 7th in goals saved above expected in the postseason among goaltenders. Demko was 10th, and if we do goals saved above expected per 60 minutes, Demko's 6th, Saros is 9th. But using that same per 60 minutes, DeSmith and Seelovs, they've not been really good. I mean, Seelovs negative 0.36. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but to have your goalie giving up more than expected per night, you guys have been good at not allowing high quality chances. So that's probably a benefit too. Probably why when Seelovs gets 2 or 3 scored on him and he's only supposed to allow 1 or 2, these metrics are going to look worse, especially with 2 games played. But the kind of company, I mean, Casey DeSmith and Seelovs are right back to back. Right around them is Alexander Georgiev, Charlie Lindgren, Aiden Hill, and Jake Ottinger. Ottinger certainly hasn't been the Ottinger we're used to seeing, but this I don't know if any of these other teams could have gotten to their third goaltender and still have them not be the worst goalie. I mean, listen, they're all better than Connor Hellebuck. That's all I'm gonna say.
Or Connor Hellebuyck, he had a brutal playoffs.
Yeah, man, that Colorado series is gonna be fun. But I really think that if you guys are gonna make a serious run at the Cup, I think you need Demko back. I think you can win this series without him. But on the flip side, now it just came to my head. The longer this series lasts, the more likely Demko's ready for Edmonton, potentially.
That doesn't really matter, right? It's about how long the other series go, right? As long as one series goes 7, we get the same amount of rest between series, no?
Okay. I wasn't sure. I can't remember. I haven't paid that much attention to the
I know,
postseason,
it's a
but
bit confusing. Sometimes they start series early, it's 'cause it's based on, like, the TV, right? So,
yeah.
it's just a bit weird.
I think it might be the NBA that does it. I know there's like overlapping series somewhere. Sometimes it happens. I don't know. Either way,
Yeah.
because I mean, come on, you guys are going into game 6, so we're not really talking about many other series lasting much longer here. So it pretty much is you guys, Boston and Dallas need to finish it up so we can get to the exciting part. Because I feel like this postseason, assuming that those 3 teams win, it's been really chalky. Like, nothing has shocked me at all. Maybe the way in which Colorado's beaten Winnipeg, but honestly,
Yeah.
if you guys advance, this is pretty much the second round that everybody expected and everybody kind of wanted too. But sticking with Nashville, let's focus on the here and now. I'm too busy. I'm allowed to do that. I'm not directly in Vancouver. I'm allowed to think a little bit too far ahead. You guys
Yeah,
have
yeah.
you guys have been turning the play. Like, it's been mostly you guys. Now, I know there's been periods and moments for Nashville. They've started hot in Nashville, and you guys have weathered the storm and all that. But looking at expected goals at even strength, you guys do have above a 50% expected goal share, yet your actual goal share is down at 43%. So clearly not getting what you deserve, if you will. Part of that I really do think it goes back to goaltending. We highlighted it before this series started. Saros and Forsberg are enough probably, and Yossi probably is enough to steal the series. And Yossi's goal, which was not reviewed, I'd like to get your thought on that one, not challenged. But I mean, those 3 guys are enough to really cause some headaches. I think ultimately your depth will win out. But, to that game 5, I think it was game 5, right? The Yossi goal was game 5. Yeah. What do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
what do you
yeah.
think about that?
Here's my thoughts, right? Personally, I think it was goalie interference, but I totally understand talking not challenging it because the problem with the NHL is you don't know what is what. outside of offside, which I guess you can tell, by like taking a microscope and really looking in for that one pixel of white ice, or when you're looking for a goal, is there that one pixel of white ice between the puck and the line, right? For all these subjective calls, you just never know. You never know what the mood even is in like the situation room in Toronto. And risk the problem is with these challenges is I don't know if it's for goalie interference as well, but if you get it wrong, you get a 2-minute penalty, or is that
Yeah,
just for
any
offside?
any any kind of challenge, any coach's challenge, if you get it wrong, you get a 2-minute minor for delay of
Yeah.
game, I
So if
think.
you get that, the game's done. The game's done. Right? You can't throw your team onto the bus. Obviously, I think the Canucks penalty kill has been pretty good, so maybe he should have taken that challenge. But the last two times Tocchet didn't challenge, it worked out in the Canucks' favor because they ended up winning both those games. So I could understand him kind of sticking with that, but this is definitely of the 3 times I believe that there could have been goaltending interference, this is probably the one that was most likely to get called back, so I guess we'll see. We'll see if the Canucks win it next game and there's no harm, no foul, it'll be alright. If we end up losing this series, then maybe we go back to that moment as kind of the TSN turning point. Uh,
Yeah, I find it hard
yeah.
to think that the one goal would be the difference in this series, but Nashville's coaches said it best. I think it was Andrew Burnett. Is that his name?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, he called it a series of bounces so far, and they've pretty much mostly gone Nashville's way. And I think so far you'd like to potentially see some of those bounces go your way. Obviously, you want to see that. Everybody wants
Yeah.
all the bounces to go their way, but you guys are generating the right amount of chances. And this is the fun thing about advanced analytics is they tell me that you guys are the better team in this series, but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
diddly because all you have to do is win 4, and 4 out of 7 is a puny sample size when it comes to analytics. So,
Yeah.
but all it tells me is you guys are doing the right thing. It's the same reason why when Dallas was down 2-0 to Vegas, I was telling people, I'm like, guys, I am not worried about Dallas. They have been the better team in every game. Yeah, they've not gotten the puck luck, but I'm hoping here in Game 6, you guys just get that explosion. You guys got to come out and play the way you need to play. Play Canucks hockey. You guys can't let Nashville
Yeah.
get the crowd involved right away. You got to sap that early. Heavy shifts, roll those lines, and for the love of God, Pettersson, keep shooting. Good Lord. Like, where has he and his line been? Like,
So
so I'm
I think this
sorry,
is we
they've been disappointing to me. And we mentioned that your depth is great, but that was with the condition your stars will play like stars. Quinn Hughes,
yeah.
Brock Besser, JT Miller, they're doing it, but Elias Pettersson, you just got paid, buddy. It's time to earn that paycheck.
Yeah, no. Fans are definitely uneasy about how PD's been playing. I think the one kind of solace I can take is that his advanced numbers look very good. But Petey needs to be setting people up, and his line mates are currently a slightly confidence lacking Nils Hoglander and the offensive black hole that is Ilya Mikheyev. So that line needs to get split up. Obviously, you keep um, Miller, Besser, um, Suter together because that line's just been working. You keep Joshua, Garland, Lindholm together because that line's been working, and then you have to figure out who moves where. You're not going to move Sam Lafferty up. You're not going to move Di Giuseppe up. This is where I'm quite upset the fact that we actually sent down Vasily Podkolzin because Podkolzin, I think, is actually someone who fits perfectly on that line and will actually drive play in terms of like he's a big four checker. He's a go getter. He plays Hockett's system, which is why I was very concerned to see him go down because I wanted to see him come in on that fourth line for Di Giuseppe as kind of fresh legs and get Di Giuseppe off because Di Giuseppe's fine, but he's not been a difference maker for the Canucks. So I would have liked to see some fresh legs in there and kind of bring that energy to Game 5 that the Canucks probably needed. Um, and it's
Didn't
not
we?
too late. They can always call. Sorry, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't we discuss that Philip Di Giuseppe is by far your worst analytical forward in the last episode?
Yeah, I believe that came up. I didn't think he was gonna be playing at all. I thought he'd be a spare forward because again, Puck Holzen was playing all the games down the stretch. Um, but it looks like they've chosen to go with Di Giuseppe maybe because he's more of a veteran or something like that. I don't know. I still think Puck Holzen should be in the lineup because he again brings the energy. I'm looking at the other forwards that we've brought up over the year. Like Baines is fine, but he's not ready for playoff hockey. It really has to be Puck Holzen they insert into the lineup. I think.
Yeah, where I'm looking at this chart about on ice, off ice metrics and expected goals. You guys have one forward in the bad category, and it's not Vasily Podkolzin. Give you a wild guess who
Yeah.
it is, but I'm not saying he's the reason that you guys are not in the next round by any stretch, but
Oh, of course.
I think what you need to do, you mentioned you don't want to touch the two lines that are working. I'm going to kind of counter that and say touch one and pull the one guy that's not needed. And that's where, I don't know if I could probably find somebody via advanced analytics, but that's where Tocchet, he knows the room, he knows the players, he knows who's playing what role. I think you move one person for one person. Like, does Mikheyev swap with Suter? And, because Miller and Besser are certainly killing it. Do they need, is Suter a line driver? Is he just along for the ride? Is he putting up points, right? Pia Suter only has one point, the one goal in the 5 games so far, whereas Miller and Besser are both point per game, right? So maybe Suter would work better with Pettersson, and then, you mentioned that Mikheyev is an offensive black hole, but Miller and Besser are so amazing offensively that maybe it offsets it. Like, I don't know your team in and out. Like, I know, obviously, I could tell you that I could have this conversation about the Sabres and I would immediately have an answer. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about potentially moving one of the 3 off a line and that being the least impactful to the line's overall performance.
Yeah, if we were to touch either of the 2 lines, that's the line I would touch because, again, Joshua and Garland should never be separated again for the rest of their careers. Um, I'm gonna just throw that out there, and then,
Is that a shot
Lindholm
at
has
the
been a perfect fit with
conversation?
them.
Is that a shot at the conversation I was having in the Discord about wanting him on the Sabres this offseason?
There may have been a conversation in a Buffalo Sabres, Discord channel where I, made it very clear I did not want the Buffalo Sabres poaching the Canucks bottom 6 talent, but,
They're all
that's
very good,
perhaps a
though.
discussion for another
That's
day.
that's a compliment. But anyway,
It is,
back to your point
but
about
also stay away.
the line you would change. I think I agree not touching the Joshua Lindholm Garland line because you're finally getting production out of Lindholm. He's a positive in
Mhm.
this series. Like, he's been really positive. For a guy that took 3 months to finally do something good for you, it's probably the best time to do something good for you. So I don't think I
Yeah,
would touch
definitely.
that one. But
Well,
with
that's why we got him, right? It was for the playoffs.
yeah, yeah, because you guys were in the position to take a swing like that and load up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, so, that idea, I think so moving Pierce down then to that second line, and then who do you put with you said Mikheyev, do you put Hoglander? Because Hoglander does have a level of creativity, and he's not the offensive black hole that Mikheyev is. Hoglander is also a hard forechecker, which again could be good for Miller and Besser to kind of take some of that burden off of Miller. Um, so maybe that could work. I think what I'd do then is I'd move up Hoglander to play with Besser and Miller, leave Mikheyev down, with Pettersson, but I don't know. I'm gonna like, this is where I think you experiment, right? Like, this is where I think you insert Podkolzin and you have an entirely new second line of Podkolzin, Pettersson, and, Suter, and then you go on the 4th line, you throw Mikheyev down there, where he'll be just fine, he'll skate up and down the ice, and it'll be fine. He can basically fill DiGiuseppe's role, and DiGiuseppe can sit.
Yes, I mean that. Listen, I haven't watched any games. I just know looking at the numbers that Di Giuseppe is my least favorite Canuck right now. As far as you mentioned, moving Hoglander up could be a good just stack that top line with scorers, right? Miller, Besser, Hoglander
Mhm.
would be a lot of guys that can put the puck in the back of the net. And does it maybe Hoglander gets one because that line is actually generating chances? You win the game
Mhm.
tonight, and he scores a goal, or not tonight. I'm sorry. You win game 6. He scores a goal. His confidence is back. You then immediately move him back to with Pettersson, and he's got that confidence, and he's going to rip it, and he's going to start scoring again. Just maybe ignite that fire, load up on one line. Listen, I'm going to be honest. The idea of a Suter, Pettersson, Mikheyev line does not fill me with any kind of excitement whatsoever that Elias Pettersson is all of a sudden going to find his form again in the postseason. I
Mhm.
mean, it just doesn't really excite me.
Yeah, no, I think looking at this lineup now in hindsight, it looks like we're still missing a top 6 winger. Because again, Mikheyev hasn't really turned out we were hoping him for him to be a middle 6 winger, and he's really been more of a bottom 6 winger.
There is a big
And
distinction. I
that's where
know
it'd
we're
be nice
talking
to.
one line there, but I mean, you're from a 2-3 to a 3-4 is it is a substantial jump.
Yeah, because again, that third line's completely taken care of. That first line completely taken care of. You just need that one extra person to kind of be there with Pettersson, right? Because right now he has an anchor and kind of, I don't want to call Höglander necessarily an anchor, but kind of a non-factor, right? He needs something else to kind of spark him right now because he is a streaky kind of player. So unless he just happens to find that streak right now, and then him and Höglander can kind of feed off of each other, he needs something to spark him. And again, I'm gonna say I think it's Podkolzin. I think you call up Podkolzin, put him on that line, and you have your little European line there, and you see what happens.
I
I
think
guess actually no, it's the exact same composition. I forgot Mikheyev's Russian too, so you're really just replacing a Russian with a Russian.
there you go. Um Yeah, I might have to retract my statement about Pius Suter. Like, doesn't fill me with any kind of excitement. He does have two individual expected goals at all strengths right now. So it's only a matter of time
Mhm.
before he scores one. I would say PD has already gotten himself over an expected goal as well individually. So you're hoping that those guys that it's the Saros effect. I mean, we're talking about maybe these lines aren't working and some of these guys aren't scoring and Höglander needs confidence. I straight up just think it's UC Saros. It's just like what Toronto's going through with Jeremy Swayman right now. I mean, they've not put in more than what, like
Yeah,
2 goals a game. They're averaging something ridiculously low. So I think you
I'd
just
actually
you
push
gotta
back
get
on
away
that. I
from
think,
them. You just gotta get away from them.
yeah, I think the other thing is they just need to get shots on net.
Yeah.
Right? That's the problem is they're not getting enough shots on net. They're taking shots. They're just not getting them on net. When they get on net, then Saros is saving most of them. But I don't even think Saros' save percentage is all that spectacular in this series, if I'm not mistaken. Um, the
Hold
problem is
please.
they're just like every game they're like under like 20 shots, and it's like that's not a sustainable way to win games. I'm
Didn't you
sure
guys
if we go
have
face another team, that will change.
didn't you have 12 shots and win or something crazy like that?
Ooh, yeah, something like that. I think it was 12 shots in the 3rd period or, like, in the middle of the 3rd period. Like, it was pretty brutal.
That's wild.
I
Yeah,
think I was
his
watching that game, actually.
his
Yeah.
save percentage is 879, which is not good.
Exactly.
But his goal against average is 221. So I
Just
really, you got to look at those two numbers in context. 221 goal against average is really good. You'll love to see that
yeah,
number, right? Obviously, he's had series where he's been sub 1.5. So at
mhm,
least you're not facing that UC Saros, but still, I mean, it's the playoffs, right? You got to muck things up at times. Not
yeah,
every goal is going to be a pretty goal because just because there's so much talent on the ice for you, there's also enough talent against you to make things that much more difficult. So, I mean,
yeah.
take some shots, guys. I'm trying to pull up the numbers right now and see what you guys are doing, but
I think they're taking shots. The problem is they're missing all of them or they're all getting blocked. It's
mm,
about getting those shots through to Saros. That's the issue.
yes, yeah, 100%.
Once
You guys aren't
once
getting them on net. Holy crap, you're not getting them on net. So you're taking
yeah,
more than half, right? So 50.58% of the Corsi, which is just shots attempted. But as far as shots
yeah,
on goal, you guys are only at 41.8% of the shots on goal. Like the Predators
yeah,
they're dominating in that regard, and maybe it's
yeah,
doing something a little bit differently, but I mean, because UC Saros is not the kind of guy where you just throw muffins on from the half boards and you expect a rebound to pop out there for you. He's, you know,
yeah,
so it's a really tough line to toe to thread that needle. Because like I said, you
yeah.
guys are expected goals doing well. But as far as like actual shots, like you mentioned, it's just not happening. And, some of it is Pettersson shoot. I know that's a big meme at this point, but Canucks shoot should be the meme now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think but that's the thing, right? That's the problem. It's Pettersson shoot, but no, it's not Pettersson shoot. It's Pettersson look where the traffic is, aim at the net, and then shoot, right? And that's the thing, right? We've hit so many shin pads in this series. I understand Soros is a good goalie, but I was a fucking good goalie in ball hockey, and I let in some fucking muffins. You got to put the ball, or in this case, the puck. You got to put the puck on the net. You just got it, right? Or things aren't going to happen. The Canucks are great at crashing the net. The Canucks are great at causing havoc, right? If you look at those, if we go back to, I believe it was game 4, um, where the Canucks had that kind of crazy comeback, they were all around the net for those goals, right? For I think one or two of the two kind of last second and third goals, you had Zadorov in front of the net, right? Like you were basically battling in the paint to get those Besser goals. And then even the overtime goal, Lindholm right in the slot, right? Like you have to be in these high danger areas and more importantly, get the puck there, right? They had to get the puck there for Besser to get his shots on the goal, the original attempt that kind of missed and the retuck back in. Um, or even the when you think back to the power play goal that Besser scored his first goal of the series to for that 2-1 win, he was sitting there right in the blue paint to tap it in. We have to get the puck there. Again, whether that's through screen point shots where they make sure the puck is seeing eye and it gets to the goalie, whether it's we have to start just shooting it low from the half boards and send layers of traffic to the net. We have to get pucks on net because that's how we're gonna have to generate. We can't depend on getting 2 goals a game and our 3rd string or a backup injured backup to freaking get it. And maybe they will. DeSmith was excellent this series. Sealoss has been pretty solid. I know the goals above the expected, goals saved above expected don't necessarily indicate that, but generally, I believe in them. I think they could easily get a shutout tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
And then the Canucks only need to score 1 goal.
those stats aren't meant to like make you doubt their ability. It's just they haven't come in and stolen anything for you. Like they've just allowed goals about expected, right? That's what I mean. Like they've each played 2 games. Those are very, very small numbers. And for a team like yourselves that, generate more of the expected goals per game and what has been a low scoring series. I mean, I'm just pulling up the all 5 games so far. 4-2, 4-1, 2-1, 4-3, 2-1. Like, come on. You guys aren't putting on any kind of show for anybody. But to your point, hit the net. Like, I think you guys... This is tough for me to say strongly, but it's a little bit, you're playing the way Nashville wants this series to go. Playing into Nashville doesn't want to go toe to toe with you guys. They want this series to be a series of bounces. If they lose 3-2 and get swept, but it was just 4 bounces that was the game winning goal each time, basically, I think Nashville would have signed up for that kind of series because we're seeing the opposite side of it when they play that heavy, gritty game. When you play a game where you're just hoping to get a bounce and whatnot, you can elongate the series, prolong potentially what some saw as the inevitable, and continue to have a chance to advance. Now, your luck does run out, like you mentioned. This is not a kind of strategy that's going to last forever. But right now, I think you guys are playing in the way Nashville would want this series to go. I think right now, if you told me that, or I guess if you told a Predators fan, that would be 3-2 going back to Nashville, and no game has been decided by more than, you've not lost by more than 1. Well, 2, right? They lost by 2 in the first game, but that was an empty netter, right? You haven't lost by more than a true 1 goal. I think Nashville would have signed up for that, personally. And I do have some stats about actually hitting the freaking net. Just looking at your top 5 shooters, it's been JT Miller, Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, and Pia Suter, right? So 4 out of the 5 are your big guns. Hronek hasn't really shot, but I don't know if that's really his game, and Lindholm's up there as well. Zadorov is shooting a ton. Go Zadorov. Yeah. Anyway, we'll touch on
very good.
Yeah, we'll touch on the stats and reading down multiple levels. JT Miller has taken 35 shot attempts. He has 13 shots on goal. Like a third of his shots have hit the net. Brock Besser has taken 27, and he's had 13 hit the net. So that's I think your best percentage.
Close to 50. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Quinn Hughes has taken 27, and only 8 have gone on net. Now, he's probably firing a lot for tips and point shots and redirections, and I don't think I'm going to criticize Quinn Hughes there. But then you get to Elias Pettersson, who's had 23 shot attempts, and 6 have gone on net. So he needs to find some confidence.
That's brutal.
He needs
25%.
yeah, he needs to figure it out. How to hit the net, right? Because the PD shoot memes, yeah, look at the box score. He's got no shots. He has taken the fourth amount of shot attempts. There was that one, I forgot what game I was watching, where he had the wide open one right at the end of, I think, the first period, and he just whiffed and missed the net
Oh yeah,
entirely.
yeah.
The net
They
was
lost
wide
that
open.
game.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, like, you're Elias Pettersson. You're an $11 million player. They're
Mhm.
paying you to hit that one, buddy. Like, just find it. Like, I'm not even mad. Just please find it because I know you're good. Like, I'm not going to say this dude's a bum because
Mhm.
he's not. Just find it. And then, by the way, your fifth guy was Pius Suter.
Yeah.
21 shots, 9 on net. So, right in that 50% range.
Mhm. Yeah, no, again, like that. This is where more the analytics match up with the eye test, where you can just tell they're just not getting anything through, and you can tell that again. Sometimes simple stats, people look at like plus minus or just random saves or whatever, right? And they're like, oh, whatever. But this is where you can see when Saros is only having to make, like, I think in the game he lost, he made 16 saves on 20 shots. Like, and again, that's a game where the Canucks scored 4 goals. It's the most they've gotten this series, and he only faced 20 shots, including overtime. Like, that's just unacceptable. I don't care how good of a defensive team it is. You can't win consistently just getting 20 shots on the net. You just can't. And that again, that's where you need Pedersen to just wake up. This is my hope, right? We have a lot of players who can just have one good game and they can win us that game, and the series is over, right? Like Saros has already had a good game, so their biggest X factor has already had a big game. For on our side, Miller and Besser have already had big games, right? We still have Quinn Hughes to have a big game. We still have Pedersen to have a big game. We still have a goalie to have a big game, right? I think Seelovs to Smith, whoever's playing, one of them can go have a really big game. And I know Casey kind of did have a big game in his win, but one of them can come in and I think they can still have a big win. So we have a lot of outs here where we can quote unquote get lucky, get the bounces, and we can end the series, right? But ideally, we want to be able to round into form if we're going to face Edmonton, right? That's not going to be an easy series. It will be a lot less physically demanding, I think, because it's not the same grit and grind. Yes, they have Evander Kane. Yes, they have Darnell Nurse. Yeah, yes, they have Warren Fogle, a couple other hitters, but Ekholm. But it's not quite the same style. The Canucks will be able to focus more on kind of that offense run and gun, and obviously just trying to stop McDavid and Draisaitl,
Yeah,
which I think they can do. But
absolutely. And I think, give some more time for Demko. Like I said, I really think Demko needs to come back. Even if he's
yeah,
90%, I think he's got to come back if you guys are going to win that Edmonton series. Because that is the clear advantage, right? You guys match up. Obviously, you don't have McDavid or Draisaitl, but I think you guys have a lot more forward depth. And I think the decors are very, very comparable. I think where you could have the lead in that series, I would say Casey DeSmith and Stuart Skinner are probably on the same level there.
mhm,
But Demko blows them out of the water. And like you said, you guys have done the job to give yourself the chance, and it hasn't been pretty, to give yourself the chance to advance
yeah,
without having really saying, oh, that game was great for us. Without really feeling confident
yeah,
about saying that, yet you're up 3-2. I think that just goes to show you how good the roster is, and Tocchet is a good coach.
yeah,
I think some
yeah,
things certainly need to be better. Don't get me wrong. It's not been perfect. Like I said, there's no game where you're like, yes, that one made me feel good and gave me confidence that we're going to win the cup. You guys haven't had that game yet. Hopefully game 6 you get through and you can start having games like that. But you guys just, shoot the puck. Saros gets wins when his save percentage is above 850. So,
yeah,
it's just the way it is right now. He's made no more than
yeah.
19 saves in a game.
Crazy, crazy. We haven't had to have him make 20 saves yet. Crazy.
Well, yeah, because he's had 20 shots against, 20 shots against, 21 shots against, 18 shots against, and 12 shots against. That game ended with 12 shots against Saros, by the
Yeah,
way. So,
yeah. My God.
what the heck, guys? You can't score if you don't shoot. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You know that Michael Scott quote? Yeah, you guys should put that on the board in the locker room. Because you can't. I guess you guys are missing about 60% of the shots you do take.
I was gonna say, I think they are taking the shots. They are just missing them. I think we need to go a little more macro on that quote and just put it on the net.
Yes. Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't put on the net. I feel like that needs to
Yeah.
be the Canucks mantra for this series.
The goalie
Oh,
doesn't have to save a shot that's not on the net.
big if true. I'm still confident in you guys, man. I think you're gonna find it. I think it's gonna come.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna happen. Oh, please don't let it get to 7. I mean, game 7s are cool and
Yeah,
all.
no.
I don't want to get. I've called the playoffs perfect so far, and I've called a couple series in the right
Yeah.
amount of games. Please don't be the team that I'm wrong on, because I have you guys going all the way.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think the Canucks have tradition last time they placed the Predators, so they beat them in 6 as well, so it'd be good to have a little repeat, and hopefully a repeat of at least how many rounds they get to. That'd be nice to go back to the cup finals again, 'cause, in 2011, that's the last time they faced the Predators in the playoffs. They beat them in 6 in the second round, so,
Okay,
um, hopefully they can do that again. Uh,
I would
but
love
yeah,
to
I don't
see
know if we
that.
wanna talk about I don't know if we want to talk about game by game kind of thing. I think we've kind of gone over it in general, but
Yeah. So I
or
mean,
if we want to focus perhaps.
yeah. Let's talk about the
No,
entire. Let's
sorry,
talk about the entire playoff so far. I know. I've been talking up
for sure.
um Vancouver Edmonton a lot, and I still think that's gonna be the
Yeah,
matchup. You've mentioned you feel okay with the Edmonton matchup. You feel like you can handle McDavid and Draisaitl. McDavid with only 1 goal. Don't mention the fact that he has 11 assists. So he clearly can't score in the postseason. How would you feel
yeah.
like going up against Edmonton in a best of 7? With Demko and without Demko.
Obviously, with Demko, I'm pretty confident. Without Demko, not so much. I think again, Demko's a very good goalie. He's shown he can face really good teams in the playoffs and blank them. Um, But, we're probably not gonna have Demko, so I think looking at that scenario is scary, right? Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, can't ignore Hyman anymore, bloody 50 goal scorer. Bouchard, right? Ekholm. You look at their team, and it's a lot, like, more spread out than it was in previous years. Their defensive core is stronger. People like Vinny Desharnais, who were a laughing stock a couple of years ago, are now, like, a solid bottom pairing defenseman, Like, they've really shored up their depth um, to the point where they are genuinely a scary deep team beyond just the McDavid and Draisaitl of it. So the one weakness again, I think we highlighted it was probably in goal with Stuart Skinner, who's been good. Stuart Skinner's been good, no doubt. But if there's one person we could kind of get to and maybe shatter the confidence of, it's definitely Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, he's been pretty average, like you said. Like he hasn't been otherworldly. He didn't have to be against LA. Oh
Mhm.
boy, LA, man. What are they
One
gonna
three one.
do? What are they? I mean, what's next? I mean, where do you go from here for LA? I mean, we're kind of getting a little bit of a tangent, but I'm just looking at all this stuff now that they're
Yeah.
officially eliminated. It's like Pierre-Luc Dubois, 8 million a
What a
season
trade.
for woo
What a trade.
baby. They gave up assets to
That's a
get
rough
that
one.
guy.
And then signed him to an anchor of a contract.
Yeah, 2031 is when they're finally freed. It's way too early to buy him out now, but like he's only 20. Maybe you hope. Maybe.
Not to bring up memories of past, but you know who it reminds me of? Jeff Skinner.
Oh,
That 8-year contract
no.
off of a
Jeff
you think
Skinner's at
Skinner
least
was
an
probably a little better, if
asset.
anything.
Jeff Skinner's positive. He scores. He does things. Now he doesn't defend. I'm not paying him to defend. He's overpaid, but I don't think these are the same situation at all.
He
To
does
be honest,
now, though. Skinner had a lull there for at least a couple of years now.
because he was on. Yeah, Ralph Kruger stapled him to the fourth line and told him to play defense.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm just saying, obviously the circumstances are a little different, right? They don't have Ralph Kruger. They have a better fucking coach than that. Most teams have a better coach than that.
Well,
But my
they
point being is,
they have
you have
two
an
coaches this season.
unproductive forward on a you have an unproductive forward on a long-term deal that's basically immovable. Those are kind of the parallels that I'm drawing. Now, PLD also could end up like Skinner in that he finds his game and then becomes, a solid second line forward and is able to contribute at that point, right? I could see him putting up 60 points. But even out of that 60-point mark, 8.5 by 8 is just crippling.
Yeah, except they could buy him out this summer and only incur a dude, honestly, no. This is crazy. This is honestly crazy. So for the life of the contract, for the rest of the years, 24-25 starting, 1.6, 1.5, 2.5, 3.8, 3.8, 3.8, and 2.8. That would be the cap hit for the life of the contract. And then it's 1.3 for the next 7-8 years after that. So listen, if they were desperately wanting to get out of that contract, they could. I think they'd probably sunk cost for the next few years, but I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
they'd probably, I mean, 7
You know
million,
what?
7 million, 6 million, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 5.5. That's how much savings they'd have if they bought him out. So it's just an absolute mistake to give him 8x8, 8.5x8.
Yeah, I agree. No, actually, looking at that post-contract buyout penalty, that's not bad at all, especially if the cap goes up. And like, what's 1.3 going to be as a percentage of the cap in 7 years? It might not be so bad. So this, this you've put yourself in a horrible situation, but genuinely, it may be in your best interest to have traded away all those assets for nothing.
Yeah, I
That's
think
that's kind of your best case scenario now
is
for
it
a
better
buyout
to
penalty.
not have PLD and cap space than it is to have PLD?
I think it's better to have the cap space because again, with the cap space, you can get a PLD like player and probably have some money left over.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I don't know. I might be with you there. I don't know. You just hate to see
Yeah,
you buy out somebody this early into an 8-year extension. Like this is year 1, right? There's 7 more years left on the deal.
I think this is the freaking tale of caution, right? All these people signing people to 8-year extensions, they haven't even played there yet. It's really risky. I think people, you're playing your franchise mode on Xbox or PS5 or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna give him an 8x3 and it'll be just fine, or like I'll give him like 7 million for 8 years and he'll be my first line forward. Sometimes it doesn't work out. It's not like NHL where the guy's gonna be like at least an 86 overall and put up at least 70 points each year. Sometimes they bust like this. Sometimes, and now you've got him on 8 more years. This is why, like, you don't sign anyone to a long-term contract unless they are, one of your top 3 or 4 stars on the team, and I guess maybe that's what they thought PLD would be.
But they just traded for him, and he just complained his way out of Winnipeg after complaining his way out of Columbus. Like, the dude clearly, I mean, I would not have gambled. I would have given up a bridge deal if anything. But we're diving way too deep into the
Yeah.
rabbit hole on the LA Kings. We'll
It'll
do
be a
some
future episode.
Yes, we'll do some other team breakdowns later, but just more general in the playoffs. So 3 series to go without a winner yet. You guys, we obviously detailed. Have we talked enough about the Canucks yet today? I don't know. Then we've got the Dallas-Vegas series, which does impact you directly because it could be one of those teams could be your Western Conference final opponent.
Yep.
And then it's Leafs Bruins, everybody's favorite. Everybody knows that one's going to 7, and the Leafs will lose in the 3rd period in historic fashion. We all know it's going to happen. The script writers are lazy. But in the Vegas-Dallas series, I mean, that's been an interesting one to me. I did not see Vegas jumping out 2-0, and them and their $100 million cap hit. Like, I don't know.
Those goddamn cheaters.
Listen. The Leafs are at 97.6, so the Leafs are worse technically.
Oh. Whoa, what a surprise. Those greasy Leafs. Not even surprised.
Man, they had to spend $100
But
million
no,
to lose in 6 to the Bruins again.
you know what? I hate the Boston Bruins. But once a year, I decide to be a good person and cheer for the team that I hate, the Boston Bruins, because
Yeah.
they're going up against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I quite
lesser of
like
two
watching
evils.
Steve Dangle freak out. Not even lesser of two evils. I just want to see Leafs fans lose it.
I guess you got that
And,
Canadian
and you know what?
rivalry.
We're supposed to support Canadian teams. You know what? I will support any Canadian team that makes it past the second round, unless they wear blue and white and wait, no, hold on, that's Canucks too. Unless they
Oops.
wear a maple leaf on their crest.
Unless they only wear blue and white. No other colors. No
Unless
third
they
color.
only wear blue. Yes. Exactly.
See, I feel like all you
But
Canadian teams are like, you guys all are supposed to support each other in quotes, but then like it comes like actually time to do it and you just dunk on each other and hate each other. Like, what's going on with that, man?
that's the thing. Like, I think we would support Winnipeg for sure, right? But we have better rivalries, the Flames and Oilers. Everybody hates the Leafs. Like, we support the Senators. I was definitely supporting the Senators the year they went to the conference finals.
It's
So
easy to
yes,
support a team
we
when they're
support like
bad.
half the teams.
That's all I'm gonna say. It's easy to
Yeah, but
support
they were
like
good that year. They were good that year.
that year. They were so good in that era, though. Like with Alfredson and
Mhm,
Heatley and Spezza. I hated that team so much because they got directly in the way of us a couple times. I mean, we just butted heads, right, with that Sabres era. That was fun, though. And Lindy's back, so maybe we'll bring those days back because maybe the Senators will figure it out, too, because, well, they certainly haven't figured it out either.
yeah.
But I did not expect Colorado to advance like they did in such dominant fashion. I
Mhm,
had Colorado in 7. Colorado in 5
yeah.
was not even on my radar. I was at 6 or 7. I picked 7, but whew, Jets, what are you doing, guys? The Jets remind me very much of the Carolina Hurricanes. Really, really, really
Mhm,
good team. Could this be their
yeah.
year? They win a series,
Yeah.
or maybe they don't, and they just flame out. And you're like, well, why do I even bother? Because you guys can't seem to figure it out against the best teams.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I actually had Winnipeg winning the series because I believe Georgiev was a fraud. So
He is,
I'm
but
sorry, Georgiev. After the first game, I owe you a little bit of an apology. I think he's deserved the benefit of the doubt until he messes up again.
that's true.
So for now, Alexander Georgiev, sorry for calling you a fraud. My apologies. Um, but yeah, it was quite the dismantling. There was the day that the Jets were playing. Um, Jets were playing, the Oilers were playing, and the Canucks were playing. So me and a couple of friends sat here, and watched all the games, and it was like quite but watching with the Kings and the Jets, it was a bit disappointing just watching them get the play taken to them. You know, obviously with the Oilers, you're playing against a 1-3-1 with Big David and Draisaitl. Like you're gonna take the play to them, and if you're the Kings, you're just hoping for a lucky bounce. But with the Jets, they have more of that matching talent to Colorado, right? You've got a good blue line with Josh Morrissey. Obviously, he's no McCarr, but he's a good defenseman, and they've got some decent like Logan Stanley big boys in the back. And then they've got the forward depth too with Shifley and Velarde and all these guys. Like
Connor,
they've Ehlers, Connor. They have good forwards. It's just something about this just getting overwhelmed and kind of getting skated into the ground. It seemed like it just seemed like they just didn't have the after game one. They didn't have the energy to keep up with Colorado, who have those horses like McKinnon and Rantanen and McCarr, and they just got worn down. It's interesting. So we're watching the Predators wear down the Canucks in a physical way, the traditional way, but Avalanche wore down the Jets in the new age way by
hmm
skating them into the ground.
yeah, and I think it's. I don't know. The wild card teams were not that impressive this year. I mean, Nashville is the wild
Mhm.
actually yeah, Nashville's the wild card that's hung on the longest, I think. Technically Vegas has as well cuz they're only through 5. So are you, but
Yeah.
um it's just interesting to me cuz I had this debate over the weekend about should like if would you be in support of the NHL doing a play-in tournament like the NBA does? So before you answer,
Mhm.
let me give you what would have happened this season. So assuming the playoffs
Yeah.
are the exact same, right? One game, and it works 7 versus 8 and 8 and 9 versus 10. So in the West, we'll stay at
Yeah.
home with you guys. Nashville would have played Vegas. The winner would have gotten the 7 seed. The loser would play the winner of St. Louis, Minnesota. The winner of St. Louis, Minnesota, and the loser of Nashville, Vegas, the winner of that game gets the 8 seed and would have faced Dallas. Very well could have been the
Yeah.
same thing here, but we could have also had a switch up where you guys ended up, if Nashville would have lost potentially to Vegas, you guys could have played Vegas in round 1.
Yeah.
Then in the
Yeah.
East,
No. It
let's do this. We got Tampa versus Washington. Winner would have played Florida.
mm,
And then you've
yeah.
got Detroit, Pittsburgh. Winner plays most likely the Capitals. and the winner of that would have played the Rangers.
Yeah.
I think it should be talked about. I know you don't want to just copy the NBA, but it is really entertaining.
Yes, no, I agree, and I quite liked the NBA play-ins. I like them a lot because it kind of I think it also gives a little bit of a gap to where you see teams resting players in that last game. If there's more of a break between kind of the playoffs and the end of the regular season, maybe you'll see less players getting rested. Um, and on top of that, um, here's my thing. In the West, that seems so whatever. Like Minnesota and St. Louis don't deserve to be in the playoffs this year. They don't. And the East, now that's where you got some interesting. You got Pittsburgh, who maybe should be in the playoffs. You got, I think you said it was Detroit was the other team.
Yep.
Yeah, Detroit. That's another team that could have been in the playoffs, right? They're probably better teams than Washington, right? That's where you have some intrigue. Where like, ooh, okay, seeing if Washington actually deserves that spot and can
They
win that
don't.
spot because they have two chances to keep their spot. They don't. They have two chances to keep their spot, right? And then if Pittsburgh or Red Wings make it instead, all of a sudden you probably still have the same result, but you have a much more interesting series.
And the thing that I'm also looking at with these, it's like it was a battle of mid, and it turned out not to be as mid in the East here, right? With Detroit and finishing on 91, right? It felt like that whoever was going to get the final wild card spot was going to have like 86 points at one stage. But there is a pretty clear drop off after that 10th placed team. So Pittsburgh was at 88 points. Philadelphia was at 87. Maybe they don't pull their goalie and give Washington the extra points because they're in the chance to potentially get into the play-in, right? So that could have impacted how the East shook out, right? With Washington basically getting gifted it because Philadelphia had to win in regulation. But Philadelphia was the first team out at 87 points, 1 point behind Pittsburgh, and then Buffalo at 84. Right, so that's a pretty clear drop-off there that it was the Detroit, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and then Buffalo's there. In the West, it's even clearer, right? You've got St. Louis, Minnesota. Minnesota finished on 87 points. 6 points behind them was the 11th place team in Calgary Flames and Seattle Kraken. So maybe Calgary doesn't sell off at the deadline. Maybe they don't get rid of Tanev and Lindholm because they're in there. They probably needed to anyway. But I think you'd see a lot less. Maybe it would cause less trading at the deadline. Not like we get much anyway. Much of anything big. I mean, I guess Pittsburgh sold off Gensel, which maybe they don't. They still came close, but anyway,
it's pretty huge. Yeah,
I think there's a pretty distinct talent cliff between the 10th place team in the conference and the 11th or 12th place team in the conference. I think it's pretty clear. And then if we do get an expansion back to Arizona, it's only going to weaken the talent throughout the league. And increase the disparity between the haves and the have-nots. So I think the play-in tournament could be pretty fun.
Yeah.
But that's a discussion that we can hopefully have in a future episode when the league maybe passes it. Because I think
we keep getting off track.
We're getting way off track. Vancouver, Nashville, Game 6 tomorrow night. Who you got? What's your score? Let's hear it.
Let's go the Canucks 3-2.
Okay. I'm saying 11-1.
Finally.
I'm kidding. I was going to say 11-1 Nashville, but I couldn't do you like that.
Wow. No. I was going to say 3-2, and here's another bold prediction. They get at least 25 shots on goal, the Canucks do.
Okay, so they right the ship.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm not expecting more. I'm not expecting 30-something, but 25, 26. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. I will say 5-2 Vancouver after Elias Pettersson's 4-point night.
Oh, wow. Really putting some faith in Petey. I hope you're even righter than I am.
I mean, I think Vancouver's going to win it. I don't think you guys are afraid of playing in Nashville. I mean, heck, you guys took, both games in Nashville so far, so clearly Bridgestone Arena is not all that intimidating for you guys to go into, but I think Pettersson finds his game in a big way. It would be a new career high in playoff points in a single game for Petey if he put up 4, which maybe I'm right. Maybe somebody's going to put up 4. Maybe I got the wrong guy, but I definitely think Petey scores At least a goal. I'm saying 2 goals, 2 assists. Passes up the chance for the hat trick for the empty netter there. And Nils Hoglander gets the empty netter. There we go. I mean, maybe I had insider information.
Nice.
Maybe I don't. I hope I do.
Sign that script and send it off.
We're gonna stop the podcast right now. I'm gonna give the script writers a call and let them know that we got some more fun. But guys, thank you so much for listening to us talk about the Canucks, rambling about PLD and talking about a potential play-in tournament, as well as many other stops along the way in this conversation. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave a 5-star review or share with your friends and family. Leave a like on YouTube. It does help us out a ton. Get exposure and get found and get us in more people's ears. Getting more confidence in those Vancouver Canucks. I see too much PD slander on my timeline. So let's cut that out with that PD 4-point night tomorrow. But that's all the time we have for this one, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you in the next one.
Go Canucks, go. Peace.